Bad, everybody. Alright. Just gonna start tagging a couple of friends. Bad, everybody. Let's see how many people are on so far. All right, just bear with me for one moment. Okay, can you guys hear me? You can just put your thumbs up, you know, the thumbs up emoji if you guys can hear me on the site. See if the lighting's a little bit better here. Okay, Rahobat. All right, so let me see who's here so far. Rahobat, Anuki Hacha Satuk. Rahobat, Nubi Kare, Rahobat, Sashat Kia Ma'at Rayay, Rahobat, Nafira Ba, Rahobat, Mark Hammonds. Let me put this here real quick. Rahobat, Tashil Tamare. You want to get on? All right. Rahobat, Hera Ank Ashtat, Rahobat, Sonia Matthews. Bad, everybody. So we're just gonna wait a little bit so that we can get other people into the call. I'm gonna start inviting more people. Let me see here. Okay. All right, you're gonna have to go through on the Miss Batia page. Go onto the Miss Batia page. Okay. Let's see. All right, just bear with me for one moment. And if you guys can also, I know not everybody is on the Misbatia page, so if you guys can also bring other people into the call, I mean onto the live class, that's cool too. Just trying to see how many people are on right now. Okay, so let's see what we have here. All right. Okay, so there's some other people that are not on the Ms. Batia page. So if you can try to link them into the live class. I'm gonna see if I can also get it shared on my personal profile. So I'm not on my personal Facebook profile right now. So some people who are friends with me, they're not going to be able to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do the class here on, I'm going to do it on the Miss Batia page, and then I'm going to go on the personal profile and then do the language class on that too. All right. Can everybody hear me? Because some people who I'm friends with, they can't see this. Okay, let me see. Let me go down the line here. Rahubat, Hotep, Amunet Ray, Rahubat, Nafira Ba, Rahubat, Teti, Khepru, Hatep, Rahubat, Sabak, Khufu Amun Hatep, Rahubat, let me see what else. Atum Tat, Nakhbatat, sorry about that. Rahubat, Maribel Franco, Rahubat, Ai Gula Hotep. All right. So far, we got 15 people here. All right, so we're just gonna start up. Rahubat Tahutwi Harar Safun. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done the language class. So I want to kind of just go right into it. So what I'm gonna do is we'll go straight into it. It was something else I wanted to read. Let's see if I can find this here. Okay, so for the language class, what we're gonna do is I just want to go over some simple basics, basic words. I'm not sure where everybody is at right now, but I want to go over a couple of things. Now, so what I'll do is I'll open up the floor right now. Does anybody have any questions so far related to the language? You could type it in as far as in the comments. You could type it in the comments, and I can address it before we proceed. All right, Tawahat Sabak Kufu Amun Hatep. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna do this. This is gonna be the first part, which is gonna be the language class on the Miss Batia forum, and then I'm gonna go on my own personal profile. So does anybody have any questions so far related to the language? And then we can pretty much start from there. I'll just open up the floor for questions, because there's something I also wanted to read for everybody. All right. Rahubat, Andre Walker Bay. Okay, so pronounce the hard. Okay, Tawatak Zama. So the brother Tahutwi Harar Safun, he asked the question how to pronounce the hard letters and double letter sounds like DJ. Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so Zamal, if you can give me, if you can send out or type up all the different hard letters and double letters, and we can go over the sounds for it, okay? The DJ, okay, so for the DJ sound that most people see, it's usually a sound like if you say the word netir, right? Netir, or Nathar, right? Nathar would be written out as Nadjar. So the way it sounds is really dealing with the placement of the tongue. So the placement of the tongue would go behind, right? So if you say nah, right, and then Nathar, you see how my tongue doesn't come out past my teeth. If I say Nathar, you don't see my tongue. So that's the placement of the tongue when you first say it. Now, if I say Nathar, you see how my tongue comes out? Nathar. That is the letter that is related to the TH sound, right? So what I'll do is, let me see if I can write this here on the board for you. Hold on for a moment. All right. Let me see if I can bring this a little closer. Gonna bring this close here. Everybody see this? All right, so I'm gonna write it on the board real quick, and this is what I mean. All right, just hold on for a moment. All right, so can everybody see this? Oh, I know it's kind of backwards. Let me flip it over. Everybody see that? All right, so you see how it says nathar, right? So you have na, ta, ar, nathar. So now, if you look at the placement of the tongue again, right? So I'll say nathar. I'm not putting my tongue outside of my mouth or my teeth. So at this case, it looks like this: nathar, natharu, muntaru. You never see my tongue come out. But if I say like the word for thallu, right? Thallu, my tongue is coming out, and I'm using the th sound. So let me see if I can write this real quick on the board. Okay. All right, so you see it here? So you see thallu, right? All right, I'm just write this here. Look. Thallu, which is for 3. This right here makes the th sound. This haraf is the th sound. It sounds similar to nathar, but it's not, because the tongue comes out with this one. It looks like somewhat like a small dumbbell. That haraf is the th sound. So when you say thallu, right? If you say thallu, that's when the tongue is coming out. Thallu, right? So if you say, I'm talking about 3, if you say 3 things, that would be thallu, right? Thallu shayahat. But you will not keep your tongue inside like you use for the letter DJ, which is nathar. Just bring back the comments here because I couldn't see them. Okay, so, all right, Tower text, Amal. So I'm seeing some of the letters now. Okay, so for the hard H, it's really just using more force as far as with your breath. Right, so instead of with the H, you would say like hatap, and you realize that it's coming more so from the diaphragm. When you deal with the A, right, the A that has the apostrophe on it, it's not really the letter A. It's not really the letter A. Really, it's a sound, sound, which is it's really what they call in linguistics. They call it the glottal stop. They call it a glottal stop. And the glottal stop basically deals with how your throat closes up to make that sound, like the ein sound, right? So if you say, I'll give you an example. Like for the word for male, right? Let me see if I can write this here on the board for you, because we'll go through it real quick. I might have to keep going back and forth with this. So you see this, right? You see this haraf? Now you see how it says A, right? But this right here, this apostrophe, is basically telling you that this makes the glottal, it's a glottal stop, all right? What we call the ein principle, right? And that's the haraf represented in Sabian or Sabaic. And it makes the sound, but not the sound, as in the letter A, right? Which is represented by this haraf. See that? This makes the sound. You see that? This one makes the sound where the throat is closed up. So it's what they call a glottal sound. See that? You follow? So I'll give you an example. Like the word for heart, for instance. The word for heart, you would say it is abeb. I'm just going to write out the English transliteration first. Okay? But the way it would be represented, right, in Sabaic, it would be written this way. See that? Now, of course, in Sabaic, everything goes back the opposite direction from right to left. So when you look at this, right, you see it from here. You see that? Ab, abab, abab. Now see how it's, when you look at this letter here, it's not really the letter A, as in the sound, the letter A. It's the sound of the glottal sound, the throat, right? And when you say it, you say abab, which is heart. Let me go back a little bit further. You see, I hope everybody's seeing this. Okay, so now I'm going to give you another example when you use A, when it's just dealing with this haraf, right? Which is more so of the sound. But there's no glottal stop in it. So hold on for one moment. It's a little difficult going back and forth with the camera here. And there was something I wanted to read to you all. I'll read it in a minute. All right, so hold on for a moment. Okay. All right, just bear with me, fam. Let me just put this here. So this is something simple, right? Hold on for a moment. So now when you see this, right? And I'm writing it from left to right for the purpose of the class. But when you see here, you see tum. Right? You see that? And then tum. But in this case, when you see this haraf, it's a hard T. So you'll see this in the books. You'll see this hard letter here at the top, right? So here, the T is emphasized a little bit more. So instead of saying atom, right? Atom, because at that point, if you say the T is, okay, so let's look at it this way. This haraf is a hard T, which means that the emphasis is on the T sound. So at this point, it's atum, atum, atum. Let me go back a little further. Atum. You follow? And then here you see that this letter A is really in Sabaic. Atum, atum. Now, if you had, let's say, if you wrote it this way, and let's say I wanted to talk about, this is the word for male, right? Just go this direction. All right, everybody see that? Now, you would say it again. Ayash. 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 Male. Let me go back a little further. I don't know if y'all seen it. Yeah, and you guys can ask me questions. I'm just trying to make this point here. So you see here how the A, atum. Here, ayash. Ayash, atum. See, ayash means male. Asha means female. So let me go back a little further here. Okay, so I wanted to go over another question that the brother had as far as related to the hard letters. Okay, so here's another one for you. Okay, so another one here as far as the ZH sound, right? When you see those two sounds together, all right, simply ZH, it makes the sound of a the, like you would say the chair, right? Or the book. So when you say the word ZH, the sound that it makes is this word, the, dhakor. The same way as Muslims, when they say they do the dhikr, right? The dhikr. The dhikr is the sound that they make, dhakor. Dhakor means to remember. So that's what the ZH represents. That's the sound that it makes, the. So going back to your original question, you have the H, right? With the hard H is a ha sound. The hard A is a glottal stop, which is the ah sound, ayash, asha. And then you have a U. Now, see, the U is not a hard letter. The U would just be another principle of the ayin principle. So sometimes when you see the letter or the haraf that makes the ah sound, sometimes you'll see different vowels because different vowels can replace it, which could be A, E, I, O, or U. All right, and now when you do with the DJ sound, that's this sound here, natar, natar, natar. And you see my tongue never comes out. It never comes past my teeth, because when you read like the book called The Language of Time that Baba Yanun wrote, he said it all deals with the placement of the tongue. So if you understand the placement of your tongue, you'll be able to better pronounce our Sabaic words in our language. Okay, so you have DJ is the natar, 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 t sound, tahuti, tahuti. And now the DZ sound is more of like a hard D. It's a hard D, and sometimes it's kind of interchangeable with the Z sound as well. So sometimes you could say, like the word for disease, for instance, or the word for say in Misbatia would be dadud, dadud. And it's using the DZ. I'm going to write this on the board for you, too. Hold on for one moment. Hold on for one moment. Let me see this. All right, hold on for one moment. All right, so I want everybody to kind of look at this real quick. Hold on for a moment. All right. So now I wrote this in Sabaic form, right? So you see how this is the letter D, right? This is da, da, da. And here we come to this haraf. This haraf is represented by the DZ. And this haraf is also represented by the DZ. This is the U. This is the A. This is the D. Okay? Now this is the word for say. All right. Now if I write it, let's say transliterate, I'll write it like this. And when you look at it, people will be like, how am I going to say this? Is it dads, zuds? Is that the word? Is that the sound? No. Because what we do is we take the English letters, like the D and the Z, and we combine it. But that's not the sound that it makes. So the sound that it makes is da, dadud, dadud. You see this DZ sound makes the D a little bit harder, right? And when you do that, it's a stronger tone. So it's dadud. So if you wanted to say, for instance, you ask the question, what did he say? Or what did she say? You would say, Shanu, Shanu faula, Shanu faula, what did she, and you say, Anha dadud. Here you come. What did she say? What did she say? All right, we'll go again. Shanu faula, Shanu faula, Anha dadud. Dadud. What did she say? I hope that helped. That helped out a little bit. Do we have any questions so far? You guys can type it in. You guys can type it into the comments. I'm gonna go scroll down a little bit further. You guys can type in the comments if you have any questions so far. I hope that helped, Zamal. But I wanted to read this one excerpt because it does pertain to the language itself. All right. So while I'm waiting, and you guys can type in all your questions, I'll do my best to answer them. So this is an update here, and this does pertain to the language. It says, sound and light alter your DNA. That's why it is so important that you learn to speak your language, your tones, to keep you aligned. There was a video of an experiment on the internet that was demonstrating how frequencies affect sand and water. Depending on the frequency, the geometric design would change. Now your body is 70 to 75% water, so why wouldn't it affect you? Get on your own tone, Sabaic. And it says here, crop circles are formed in the grass because of the frequency from these ships when they land. You can tell where the crafts are from or which beings are associated with a particular crop circle by the insignia or designs they make. So you can see here that how important the language is in terms of the frequencies and the sounds that come from just speaking our own tones. So once we understand our language, we have to first understand the meaning of the letters, how to pronounce the words, and really have to just establish saying and speaking our language. But it's really difficult when we really don't have any people or any person that can readily speak the language with us, especially in our daily lives. So it's very, very important that we as a tribe, as a nation, we have to really enforce and emphasize the speaking of our own language and our own tones. Let me see if there's anybody. I'm just going to go up the board a little bit because I see some more people that have entered the live class. Rahobat, Wesagar Bekatum, Rahobat, Teti Khepru, Hatap. Okay, so I think the brother asked a question. Is that your question, where it says Adud? Are you saying that that's the word for command, or are you saying that's the word in command form? You're going to have to be a little bit more specific with your question. Rahobat, Kidar, Yanan, Rahobat, Nafrutat, Matat, Amuntat, Ashtat, Rahobat, Amun Ra, Mutabaruka, Rahobat, Brandon Nathaniel Coleman, Rahobat, Terif Haru Kurf, Rahobat, Chris Neal, Enkhat Nafir Ray, Atun Hatat Maduti, Denise Johnson, Fatamtat, Adua Ukran, Rahobat, Aha Qa'ah, Rahobat, Amun Nim Nesu, Rahobat, Rahma Sachem Sanmantu, Rahubat Nafrutat Rayay. Rahubat Mhotep Rayay. Okay, I think I got everybody. Rahubat Maheru Amun. Oh, Rahubat Khensu Amun. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions, or y'all want to hear me build? Because I'm gonna go into the language a little bit. I want to just do some new words. He says asking, basuf. Tete, you're gonna have to write a little bit more because I don't understand your questions. Are you saying that that's the word for asking? That's the word for say? You're gonna have to type it out a little bit more. So that's another thing on the live classes. Try to write out your comments, even if they're long. It doesn't matter. But I'm trying to understand everyone's questions. But when you guys write the word and then you guys write the question mark after it and then you write another word, I can't really interpret it that way. Because the word for asking, if you want to say, would be shawul. All right, so the word for ask, right, would be shawul, and then asking would be shawul. I don't know if that was your question, but Rahubat and Khat Nafir Ray. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a couple of new words just to share with the family. You can write it down in your notes. Like the word for write, as in writing. Write is katub. The word for take, like you taking something, is khadud. If you want to buy something, the word for buy is shatoy. All right, shatoy. If you want to bring something, bring, the word for bring is jabub. Instead of something that is full, right, would be the word for malal, right? You say I'm full, anuki malal. But if it's half, you have full, which would be malal, and then you have half. It's like the half of something, and that would be nasaf. Nasaf is the word for half. Then you have the word for keep, right? Like you have to keep your peace, right? You have to keep a secret. Keep. The word for keep is hafut. Hafut is the word for keep. The word for secret is chafoy. The word for learn is raku. And if the language department is here, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, right? For those who are familiar, Wu-Nuwapu is changed to Wu-Sabat. Baba Yanun has changed it from Wu-Nuwapu to Wu-Sabat. All right? A Sabian would be a musbat. Sabian, musbat. If there's more than one Sabian, then it would be musbatu. And every time you hear the U at the end of a word, it represents the people itself. The word for temple is makdash. All right? You hear the word qadash inside of it, the three root letters. Qadash is in makdash because the temple is a sacred place. Okay, so see another question here. Rahubat Hotep. So it says, Tahutwi harar safun. He says, when pronouncing words with the pronouns ma, mu, mi, and ta, would you pronounce the three-part root outright, like ta, shawel? That's a good question. So, okay. So what we have to understand is what each prefix represents in our language, and then you'll be able to understand how to formulate it a little bit better. So when you say ma, the prefix ma, it always represents something that is a place, right? Place. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I don't want to be too spaced out with you all. So, for instance, the word temple is makdash. You hear the M-A in it, ma, right? And then you have the Q, the D, the A, and then the SH, qadash. So let me just write it here. I'll make it a little bit more simple. All right, let me see here. So when you have ma, it's always dealing with a place. When you deal with mu, you're dealing with a person or a being. When you deal with mih deals with a thing, something that is being used. And then when you deal with ta, the ta represents what is related to the ion suffix, the equivalent to the ion suffix in English. And I'm going to write this on the board for you guys to all see. All right. I'll hold on for a moment. All right, you guys see that? Hope you guys can see it. So you see here, we have ma. Ma deals with a place, and this is just dealing with the prefix, right? Mih deals with a thing. Mih deals with a thing. That's the prefix for a thing. Mu deals with a person or a being, right? And then ta always deals with the ion suffix. So how do we put this together? All right. Okay. So I'll give you an example, right? So you know how Baba Yanun has always taught us that that males and females, we come from like different star systems, different places, right? Well, I'll give you an example. For instance, you have the word for Orion would be Sa, right? So someone who is from Orion, or a person from that star system, would be called a Musa, okay? Because you're utilizing the MU, which deals with a person or a being, and all you're doing is combining the root letters of the word Orion, which is Sa. The root letters is Sa, Ah, and Ha. Sa, Ah, and Ha. Sa. So a Musa would be one of who is of Orion. So the same way, and I'll give you a better example. When you deal with the word Sirius, Sirius is the word Sabat, simply Sabat. But when you deal with Sirius star systems, it would be Sabatat. Now, someone who is from Sirius, a person or a being, which in that case would be a Syrian, they would be called a Musbat. And you have to go back into the root letters again. What are the root letters of Sabat? It's the beginning consonant, which is Sa, right? The middle, which is Ba, and the ending, which is Ta. Sabat, Musbat. And as you learn how to put the prefixes together, you'll actually realize how to actually formulate the words. Okay? Okay, somebody said, could you please write out the new words you spoke of? Yes. Okay, hold on for a moment. I'm gonna do it really. I'm not gonna write it too much in Sabian because it may be a little bit difficult for everybody to follow it. Okay. Let me go back a little bit. So you see, this is the word Sa. Hold on for a moment. Everybody see it? Sa. And this is just for teaching purposes, right? So you see here, Sa. That's the word for Orion. So what happens is when you deal with the prefixes ma, mu, and mi, all you're doing is adding the prefix to the sound. So what you'll see is you take this here, all right, and I'm going to take the 3 root letters of it. The 3 root letters of sa is sa. This here. You see that? That's a root letter. Hey, roll that. That's a root letter. See that? Sa, ah, and then ha. Y'all see that? Those are the 3 root letters. So what you do with the word is, once you find out the root letters, you extract them. That's what you do. You extract the 3 root letters. So then you say, okay, so I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take this one. And you bring it down here. So you have sa, all right? And then you have ah, and then you have ha. And I think Orion has a hard H at the end of it, if I'm not mistaken. So it would really look like this. All right? And instead, you would bring it here. Okay? You see what I did? Did everybody see what I just did? How I extracted it? And then what you do is, to help yourself out, what you do is after that is you put it in a transliterated form. So you know it's a hard S. You know this is a hard A. And you know this is a hard H. Everybody see that? Okay? And then the next step is, how do you apply it for talking about a person? Right? So a person, we know, deals with the mu prefix. Right? MU. Everybody see that? MU. Now, of course, it looks like this when you put it into our language. All right? But for the purpose, you see how you have MU, and this deals with a person, because this would be someone who is of, right, Orion, or a being from that place. So what you do is, now you have to combine the prefix, the mu, with the root letters, sa. So, you follow? Let me go back a little bit further, because I know the camera's not really getting the whole picture here. All right, this might be a little bit better. All right, you see that? So what you do is, all you do is combine the prefix with the root letters. How do you do that? So I'm going to go above here. Okay, I'm going to write it here. Mu. So we have that. All right? And what the formula is that you put the root letters here, here, and then you put an A. That's the formula for someone who is a person, a being. So you have the MU, and then you plug in the 3 root letters here. That's the formula. All right? So everybody see that? Sa, you see Orion, you see the prefix there, mu, you see the root letters, sa, ah, ha. So then you put it up top here, and you just plug it in. You say, oh, you meant S. That's a hard S, right? And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's a hard A. Right? And then you say, oh, okay, and it's a hard H. Once I transliterate it. And then simply, you put it here. Mu, sa, musa. There's the 8, there's the A, and then boom. You see that? And so now you say it. Musa, musa. You see that? And then after that, you just go in. What does Sa mean? It means Orion. So an Orionian would be a Musa. You see how simple that was? Now you could do this with any word. You can take this word. Let me go back here so everybody can see it. Now you can do this with any word. It's not just Orion, because I don't want to be too much of a space cadet with you all. But you could do that with anything. You can deal that with simple. You can do that with nagar, right? Nagar, N-A-G-A-R, nagar, right? And that represents what? Nagar Nad. Nagar Nad is what? A Negroid. Everybody see that? Nagar Nad. Negroid. Now, what are the three root letters of Nagar Nad or Nagar? It's N, G, R. You see that? Nagar Nad. Negroid. So what you do is, all you do is extract the root letters. All right? So in Sabian, you would take the N and you convert it. You would take the G, convert it. You take the R, convert it. And now you have Nagar, the three root letters. You follow? And then you want to still add the principle of Mu, one who is of the Negroid race. You see that? I put it right here. And all I'm doing is I'm transferring it back into the language again. M, and then I put U. And I follow the same pattern again, what I did before. So how do I want to say one who's of the Negroid race? So I just follow the pattern. I have the MU, it's already there for me. And then I follow the formula again. What was the formula? It's what? I'll write it here. MU. And then it's a blank, and then another blank, right? And then A, and then another blank. And then that formula is how you just plug in the root letters. So you say, okay, what are the root letters? Na, ga, ra. Right? Which is N, G, R. So you just plug it here. N, G, R. What does that say? Mungar. Mungar. And when you see that? Let me fall back a little bit. Mungar. Nagar Nad, Negroid. Mungar, one who is of. And so all you do is you take it, right? You have the MU, and then you just plug it in. N, G, A, R. And that's how it would look like. Mungar. All right? And then you just plug it in. Mungar. Mungar. All you have to do is follow the formula. You follow the formula, and you can start putting things together automatically. Okay? Someone asked the question, what is the correct way to say thank you when speaking to one or more persons? Is it tawu or tawa? All right. Okay, so what was the question? So the question was, what is the correct way to say thank you when speaking to one or more persons? Is it tawu or tawa? Okay, so if you're speaking to someone and you want to say thank you, you simply say tawu, tawu, tawu tat. Tawu tat if you're speaking with a female, or the children, they already know the tones. Tawu tat if you're speaking with a female, or tawu tak if you're speaking with a male. All right? Now, if you say tawa, tawa is simply saying yes. Tawa, that's the word for yes. Tawa. Tawa. So when you say, is it tawu or tawa? So it's tawa, and it's with a hard A at the end of it. The second word that you wrote down, zamaltat, ashtat, ma'at, rayay. Okay? I'm going to go up the line a little bit. I see some more people came into the live. Rahobat Aret Anukis, Rahobat Kavan Bing, Rahobat Brian Collins, Rahobat Ashtat Ma'at Rayay, Rahobat Ray Hatap Wapwawet, Miguel Stoffels, Rahobat Devon Cox, Rahobat Sean Allgood, Rahobat Khafrayay Tutamun, Rahobat Patah Khafrayay Hepit Ray Atum Rayay, Rahobat Queen Mother Balance, Rahobat Narua Anuket, Rahobat Asar Tebtu Carter Johnson, Rahobat Kawana Crenshaw. Rahul bat, everyone. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions so far? Because I hope you guys kind of understood how that worked. So when you have that was ma, mu, and mi. All right, ma, mu, and mi. So mu, like as in musbat, musbatu. All right, that's dealing with persons and beings. When you deal with mi, mi is dealing with a thing. Mi is dealing with a thing. So, for instance, with the mi, what you can do is once you start understanding or memorizing more of the actions, the action words that we have in our language, like for instance, you have the word study. Study is an action word, a verb, darus. That's the word for study, is darus. Or you have the word to sit, right? To sit down. What I'm doing right now, sitting, sit. That's the word galus, galus. And what you do is you take the verbs, you take the actual verb or the action, and you can add mih, M-I, mih to it. And when you add that mih to it, what happens is you're talking about or you're formulating a thing that is utilizing that verb or action. For instance, a chair, right, is something that you sit in. So the word for sit is galus. So a chair would be a miglas. You saw how I did that? Mi and galus together. Mi, galas, miglas. You put that together. That's a chair, something that you sit in. If you're reading something that you are studying, right, a study or a lesson, then you have the word, what's the word for study? Darus. What are the three root letters? Da, ra, sa. And when you put it together, a thing that you study, a lesson, it would be mi and darus. Put together is midras. Midras. Okay? Same thing with the word for ma. Even if you have a place that you study, a place where you study, right, would be ma. So you take the prefix ma and darus together again, and then you have ma, darasa, madras. So you do that with ma, mi, and mu all together. What should we say is the meaning of Wu-Sabat, being that Wu-Nuwapu means to replace? Well, we haven't received the true meaning of Wu-Sabat just yet. We do know that Wu-Nuwapu means to replace, the replacements. But Wu-Sabat is something a little bit newer. We know that Wu-Sabat, of course, pertains to our culture. But you know that the word Sabat, we have Sirius or star, also pertains to the word Sabat. But as of now, I couldn't tell you the true meaning of Wu-Sabat itself. And plus, there's a book that Baba Yananan wrote years ago. It's an actual fact called Wu-Nuwapu. And I think it's actual fact number 6. And he always talked about he was never going to give the true meaning of the names that are into our culture, because he said that if disagreeable beings would find out, then they would actually start coming. So he was talking about how it's not really for the disagreeable's ears to know the true meaning of the names of our culture. All right, so you still have to understand that there's 3 degrees too, because you have Asanupu, Wu-Nuwapu, and Nabanupu. Okay, right now Baba Yanun is introducing to us Wu-Sabat and the Sabaic or the Misbatia, our language system that is showing us how we write it from right to left and the origins thereof. But it's very, very good. That's a very good question, Zamal Khensu Amun. But I hope that helped. I hope that, could steer you in the right direction. Let me see. All right, do we have any more questions so far? There was something I wanted to read to everybody. Let's see if I can find it here. And I'll just wait. I'm gonna wait if you guys have any more questions for the language class. But I wanted to give to you all some. Questions, because the best thing about the language is we have to be able to utilize it on a daily basis. So I formulated a couple of questions here, wrote it down, so that you can pretty much ask somebody who is a Sabian or someone who wants to know a little bit more about the language, we have certain phrases that you can learn. And I wanted to read them off to you all so you guys can kind of, try to memorize these questions. So here's one of them. I'm going to go over it a little bit slowly. So the word for R is athir, right? So if you wanted to say, are you going to the temple? Are you going to the temple? That's a simple common question that you can ask someone, right? Are you going to the temple, or are you going to the store? So you would say, are you? If you're speaking to a female, you would say athir antat, athir antat, athir antat. And he says, are you going? Athir antat hamus, athir antat hamus. Are you going? Athir antat hamus laya pa makdash. All right, so you have athir antat hamus laya pa makdash. Are you going to the temple? That's how you would ask someone. All right. If you were to ask somebody, hey, are you going to the temple? You would say athir antat hamus laya pa makdash. Now that's for temple. If they're going to like the store or a bookstore, right? Then you would say athir antat. If you're speaking to a female, athir antat hamus laya pa masfa. Masfa would be for a bookstore. Okay, these are real simple questions that you can ask any person, and we should really incorporate this and apply this in our daily lives. You have another one. If you want to get, you want to ask someone to come here, you would say atoy, atoy. Atoy means come here. Now the word yatoy, right, is to come, right, as in C-O-M-E. But when you say it in a command form, you have to put the A at the end of it, and it's aitoy, aitoy. Aitoy means come here. Aitoy satat, come here please. Aitoy satat, come here please. Yeah, so that's another one. Aitoy satat, come here please. I think I saw a couple of questions here. How do we pronounce words like mijhar, mijhar, mijhar? Yes, so mijhar. I'm trying to figure out what does the word mijhar mean. You can kind of help me out a little bit, because I see the root letters would be jahar, 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 or jaharat. So, but I see a J here, so I would say mijhar. Let me see. Rahubat narua anuket. How about, are you going to work? That's a good question. So if you want to say, are you going to work? If you're speaking to, let's say, your husband or your male friend, or you would say, athir antak, athir antak. Are you? Athir antak hamus. Hamus means going. All right. Hamus is go. But hamus, when you have that elongation, you're dealing with the ing. All right. So you say athir antak hamus laya. Laya means to, like towards. Are you going towards? And then you have athir. So you would say athir antak hamus laya, and then you have work. So work, the word for work would be shaghul. Shaghul is to work, but that's the verb of it. But if you're going to the place, all right, then you have to incorporate the ma prefix into it, which would be mashghal. Mashghal. So you would say athir antat hamus laya mashghal. Are you going to work? You say athir antat hamus laya mashghal. All right, mashghal. And the root letters in the word work is shaghala. Shaghala. Mashghal. All right. That's a good question. Zamaltat narua anuket. Let me see here. Okay, so the question you were asking earlier, that's what I was asking earlier. The command for dadud is adud. Oh, yes. Right. So for the word, so for the word say, S-A-Y, say is dadud in Sabian. So if you're saying, hey, if you're saying say it, you would say adud zi, adud zi, adud zi. Adud is the command form of dadud, which is say. So if you want to say it, then you say adudzi, adudzi. Hopefully that helps. what is the difference between layah and lake? So the difference is layah means to, as in towards, right? To as in towards. You're moving towards your house. You're moving towards your home. You're moving towards the person. That's layah. Lake is to, but it's not dealing with something that is towards. To as in I have to. I have to. Right? That's when you would use the word lake. Lake is to, as in I have to. So if you say I have to, you would say I, nakuk, have hayuz, lake, to work, shagul. I have to work. So you would say nakuk hayuz lake shagul. But you would not say nakuk hayuz layah shagul. It wouldn't make sense. All right? So you say, oh, I have to work. So nakuk hayuz lake shagul. Nakuk hayuz lake shagul. That's what you would say. But if you're saying I'm going towards work, then it says, oh, anuki hamus layah mashghal. Okay, hopefully that helped. Athir antak hamus layah mashghal. That's it. That's it. Rahubat hotep ba'atun. That's it. That's the correct one. All right. Hopefully that's helping out with a lot of people. I saw a couple of things too. The usage of the word all, right? The usage of the word all I see has kind of been messed up a little bit. So if someone comes to you and says, how was your day? And they say it in Misbatia, right? They would say, Ache kawana zamut. Ache, right? You would say, Ache kawana zamut tak, if you're speaking to a male. Ache kawana zamut tat, if you're speaking with a female. How was your day? Ache kawana zamut tat. Ache kawana zamut tak. Right? That's how was your day? And then the person would say, oh, it's all good. They wouldn't say, you can't, sometimes they use the word paut with the word all, and that's something completely different. So that would be a misusage of the word all. So there's different types of alls within the all, if you want to say it like that. So you have paut. Paut is all expanding. But it does not relate, and it is not, or should I say, it's not relative to all as in kaleh. Kaleh is all, like all the people in the room. Okay? Kaleh is all the people in the room. Okay? But you wouldn't say, if you say all is good, you would say kaleh kawun wawed. Right? Kaleh kawun wawed. Okay? But you wouldn't use paut kawun wawed. All right? Because you're dealing with a different concept. All right, so you have paut, which is all, but that's all expanding, ever expanding. And then you have kaleh, and kaleh is all, as in all the people in the room, all the children, all the things that are in the room, right? That's kaleh, and that's kaleh that's a K-A-L-E-H, all right? Kaleh, all is good. Kaleh kawun wawed, or kaleh kawun kawas, or I'm good, anuki kawas. So yes, so it's very important, the usage of, we have to know what the words actually mean, right? And then that way we can actually communicate a little bit more effectively within Misbatia, within our culture. So there's so many things that that I can pretty much go into, but I just wanted to correct that because I experienced that as well with a couple of people. And there's another thing too. So, and this may be for another class. Rahubat. Rashid Jordan, Rahubat Zamal, Rahubat Hotep Khansuamun. So there's another one too. There is 3 different types of where, there, and here. All right, 3 different types: where, there, and here. Okay, and they all have different elements in each one. So it can be kind of confusing, but I'm going to see if I can simplify it for you all really simply. Hold on for a moment. So you have wanu, wana. You can say that with me. Wanu, wana. That's where. That's the word for where is wanu or wana or wana, depending on the context of what you're saying. Then you have there, and there is thanu, thanah, thana. All right? And that's there. And then you have here. And here is hanu, hana, hana. Those are the, you hear all the different vowels as far as that I'm speaking. So I'm going to read this to you. Let me just pull it up because it was coming from the previous, previous book that Baba Yanun was introducing from the language of time. And you can pretty much start to understand, once you start studying the books, like language of time, Miss Batia Made Easy, and start to really start speaking the language itself, pa lahaj, the language, pa lahaj, then you'll start to, what your brain will do is, the more you hear the tones of the language, what your brain will do is it will assimilate. It will assimilate it into your mind, the more you hear it. All right? So we have to constantly speak Sabic with each other. We have to constantly speak Sabic to each other. All right? And not at each other, but with each other. So the more you hear the tones, the frequencies, right, it'll start to really break down the spell of sleep that has been placed on our minds. Okay? So let me just go into this concept real quick. Or precept, I should say. All right, I'm just going to pull it up real quick. If you guys have any more questions, please, you could type it into the comments. But I wanted to show this to you all about wanu, waneh, and wanah, because it can be kind of confusing, and sometimes people don't really know how to utilize the where, there, and here in certain sentences. So I'm going to do my best to make it really simple for you all, if I can find it. Let's see, where is it at? I know I had it in my notes somewhere here. And if I can't find it, I'll save it for another class. All right, I don't think I can find it right now. All right, well, I can't really find it right now, so once I find it again, what I'll do is I'll probably go on my personal profile, and then I can probably go through the wanu, waneh, wanah, and thanu, thana, thana, and hanu, hana, and hana. So let me see if there's any more questions. What is the difference between wawed and kawas, and how is each used in a sentence? Okay, that's a good question. So wawed is good, right? But it's good as in character. So wawed, like, oh man, that she is good. She's a good person. That's when you would say wawed, right? But when you say kawas is the state of the person. Not necessarily in health, but you know, I'm good. Like anuki kawas, I am well. So kawas is more so as in well and good as in being well, as opposed to wawed, which is good as in character. And then you have nahab. Nahab is the word for health. You say, I am healthy, you would say anuki nahabi. Anuki nahabi, and that's dealing with I am healthy. All right? And then you have another word for good, but in this case you hear the word nafir. Nafir. And nafir is really more so for beauty, right? And that's dealing with, so if you say nafar, or nafari, beauty, okay? And then there's different levels to it. So when you do with the nafr part is dealing with beauty, beautiful, like anafru. Anafru means the prettiest, right? But then if you say nafru, then you're dealing with someone who's gorgeous. And then you have nafir, is something that is beautiful. It's good, but it's good as in how it appears to be. All right, so yes, so you have wawed. Wawed is good, but wawed is good as in character. So if you want to say she is good, you'll say anha kawun wawed. Anha kawun wawed, or she is a good person. Anha kawun wawed un, and then you say person, which would be mushkhas. Okay. So I hope that helped. Page 49. You know what? I'm actually trying to do this. I'm trying to do this off of my iPad, but I can't find. I don't have it here in my notes because I can't go onto my phone. I actually have the build on my phone. but I can't go into my phone because I'm on live. I'm on live right now, but I was trying to look for it with my iPad. But I wanted to read this to you all because this kind of correlates to the language. Let me see. So this is what I also wanted to include. So when you say like wanu, wana, right? Wana is more so of like where? Where is it? Like the location itself. So if you want to say, where are you sitting? Where are you sitting? Right? So then you would say wana, where are, right? Wana athir, where are you? If you're speaking to a female, you say antat. If you're speaking to a male, you would say antak. If you're speaking of they, right? Then you would say amtu. So you say wana athir antat, wana athir antak, or wana athir amtu, and sitting is the word galus. Okay? So you say wana athir antat galus. All right? Where are you sitting? Where are you sitting? So they deal with different expressions. When you deal with wana, wanu, wana, hanu, hana, hana, thanu, thana, thana. So we're going to go into that real quick. But before I go into that, I wanted to read something, because this kind of dealt with the language itself too. Let's see if I have a question. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, somebody said, what is the difference between hana and hunan? So the difference is really those words. Hunan was the previous word, all right, an older word, and hana would be the newer word. Okay, so hana is still here, right, which also still represented hunan. Hunan was just changed to hana, basically. So hunan was here previously, and then hana is the new word, or as we say, the Jadad Madat is the new word. Okay? And you can hear the tones. You hear that? Jadad. So if you say Jadad, and that means new, what is one of the attributes that Baba Yanun has? He is a mujdad. A mujdad. You hear that word? Mu, meaning the prefix which deals with a person. And Jadad means new. So what does Baba does? He renews things. That's his title. That's one of his attributes. So for him to renew it, as a mujdad, that makes him a reformer. He makes all things new. Mujdad. Okay? So I was just giving you guys that just to give you an example as far as how you could take the root letters and place it together. I wanted to read this real quick. This is coming from the sacred records of Atum Ray, and it deals with how important the language is. This also ties into the Patadak called Power of the Language. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm just going to read this off to you real quick. It was really good. I just got to find this one quote here. Okay. And it kind of ties into what we're dealing with right now. Let me see. Is that book in the temples of Ma? The Sacred Records of Atum Ray? No, it's not. The Sacred Records of Atum Ray is not at the bookstore. Sacred Records of Atum Ray is an older book. It's actually a small black and gold book. We call it the Black Book, but the original name of it is called the Sacred Records of Atum Ray. Let me see. I just gotta find this one quote here, because it ties into Tammuz and Nimrod and how it was so important about learning the language itself. Hold on. Okay, so here it goes. This is the question, because this kind of ties into what's happening to us now as far as with Nimrod. The question is asked, who was this Nimrod, the master builder, right? It says Nimrod was a Sumerian, a Babylonian, son of Semiramis and Cush, or Kish, right? Now remember, the word Cush, right, was actually the name for Ethiopia. And then before the word Ethiopia, right, or Cush, Ethiopia was called Saba.
Sabba. You find this in the book called The Language of Time that Baba Yanun wrote. So Ethiopia was actually called Sabba at one time, which is the language that we're speaking now. Okay? He says, he was given the name Nimrod by his envies, but his real name was Sargon. All right, here's another question. Is Tammuz the Lord that visited Babylon? Answer, yes, this Tammuz came down to see what these sons of Elohim were building. And this is in Genesis 11. I thought a group of gods came to earth. Answer, they did, a group of Yahwehs. Because verse 6 says, and the Yahweh says, behold, speaking to a group of beings. And verse 7 says, let us go down, right? Let us go down. Somebody asked a question, which page in the black book? I'm on page 235, 236. Right now I'm on 236 right now. So it says here, so the Yahwehs are groups, okay? So to kind of get everybody a little bit acclimated to what I'm actually teaching about, when you go into the Bible and you go into Genesis 11, there is a particular verse that says, let us go down there, right, and confound them of their tongues, confound them of their language. So you have to understand that in the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah, that these books were actually compiled, right, by many different scholars that spoke different languages. So you had the Torah, which was coming from Hebrew. You had the Quran, which was coming from the Quraysh Arabic. And, of course, you had the Bible, which was split up, the Old Testament coming from Hebrew and the New Testament coming from Greek. All right, so all of these books, the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah, come from the Sumerian stone tablets. They come from the book called Enuma Elish. And this particular case, when you look at the Sumerian stone tablets, they actually go back to the Anunnaki, or as we say in our language, the Mu'anaku. All right, the Mu'anaku. The Mu'anaku are the Anunnaki, who are the Yahwehs, who are the groups of people that they are talking about in this verse in the Bible. All right, in Genesis 11. Okay, so just to bring everything down for everybody to understand. And this is why it's so important for us to speak our language, our lahaj. So it says here, so the Yahwehs are groups, and as groups, as I said earlier, they become Elohim, as found throughout the first chapters of Genesis, under the word God, right, under God, where in actuality there is Elohim, meaning gods. So to kind of bring a little bit everybody up to speed, when they say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, it was really saying in the beginning, gods, right, created the heavens and the earth. And those gods were really called the Anunnaki or Mu'anaku in our language. Okay, so you're really pretty much going from English or the German word God and the pluralization of it, gods, because in Hebrew the word is Elohim. And then when you go past the Hebrew and back into the Sumerian stone tablets, then you go into the word Anunnaki or Anutu. Okay, as we say in our language, Mu'anaku. All right, they would be the Anunnaki. Okay, so he says here, so this is the question that is being asked. So first, one Yahweh came, and then the group of Yahwehs, that's the question. So first, one Yahweh came, and then the group of Yahwehs or Elohims came after? Yes, Zamal, this is not dealing with our story. This is the Mesopotamian or Sumerian story. But this is dealing with a part of our language that was introduced to Mesopotamia. So it's kind of both. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So he says here, so first one Yahweh came, and then the group of Yahwehs or the Elohims came. What is this talking about? So it's talking about when you go into Genesis, right, the first Yahweh would be the first Anunnaki, which was Enki, right? So he was the Lord God, right, that was moving across the waters, right? When it says in the Spirit of God moved across the waters, or above the face of the deep, in the Spirit. I kind of messed it up a little bit for you guys, but you guys understand what I'm saying. In Genesis 1, verse 2. Okay? So that was Enki. So he was the first Yahweh, right? That's one. And now there was 49 others that came after him. The 49 others, when you add 1 plus 49, that's 50, which would make them Anunnaki, because Anunnaki simply means those what? Groups that came down in 50s. The groups that came down under 50s. So it's getting to this point right here. It says, that's right, Tammuz, the Anunnaki visited these children, right, who they considered rebellious, as opposed to the obedient children of Noah. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit here. This is dealing with the time period, right? 6,000 years ago, when Tammuz was the ruler over the Mesopotamian area. And you had Adamites, or the Mu'adamu, who were considered to be Lulu Emilu, primitive workers. They were working in the mines. All right, and it says, and Tammuz made his voice known amongst the Anunnaki, that they can go down to stop these, as they thought of them rebellious children. So then he returned to the stars. So when you go back into this verse in Genesis, and this Lord God is coming down and seeing what's going on, you have to understand that Nimrod went back to the land of Cush and got the Napatan tones. He got the Sabaic tones. The Sabaic language that we're actually speaking right now is the same language that Nimrod actually learned from his father Cush, or Kish, or Kashta, and brought it to the land of Mesopotamia, taught the Adamites there the language we still speak now, and then they started constructing buildings and temples. All right? This is dealing with the power of the language. Okay? So then it says, well, what happens next? So it says, well, as verse 6 says, he spoke to his constituents, or his Yahweans, or the Anunnaki. And he says, look, the people is one. The people is one. They unified, and they have all one language. They are speaking one language, and this they begun to do. Simply look at what they are capable of doing with unity and one language. So the one language we're speaking today, all right, Wahulahaj, or Misbatia, right, is the same language that can only unify us as a people and as a culture. The same language we speak today, all right? So when you start speaking Misbatia, you are literally unifying your own race. You are unifying yourself as well with your own ancestors. All right? Okay. All right, so here's another question. It says here, this building was done without the guidance of the God of Seth, or the son of Adam. All right? You got to see how this question was actually phrased. Here's the answer. Yes, to this date, the God of the Bible and the Quran has never produced a city as great as the Mayans, the Shang dynasty, the Tamarayans, okay, or the Anunnaki. None of these great intellects believed or accepted the Bible or the Quranic religion. Yet their intelligence has not been matched to date. The mysteries of the pyramids are still baffle monotheists. Okay? Here's another question. Question is asked of Baba Yanun. Then what was their religion? All right, so basically, what was the religion of the people that Nimrod brought the language to? Right? After he unified these people and they had one language, what was their religion? Here's the answer. They had no need of one, for they had the most important principle, which was working together as families with unity and one language. All right? It says, and this frightened the God of the Bible and the Quran to the point where he wanted to cause them misery for no reason whatsoever. All right? So now, what did this God of the Bible and Quran actually fear? What did he fear? I mean, and why would God fear? So it says here, a simple principle. This is what he feared. The simple principle of unity without faith or belief. And with this simple principle, nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do, is their God's own words. So you have to understand that Tammuz and Lil, Nanar, Ninurta, those were the Anunnaki that were watching down and seeing what was actually happening in Mesopotamia. And they saw Nimrod bringing the Sabian tones, bringing the Sabian language, bringing these Napatan tones, right, from Cush, from Ethiopia, from Sabba, right, to this land of Mesopotamia, and started unifying the people. Okay? All right. I'm going to read a little bit more, and then after that, I can start getting some more questions as far as dealing with the language. So it says, so what did Tammuz and these other Yahweans set out to do? Here's the answer. Just what Nimrod's priests predicted they would do before they even knew it. And what was that? So when you go back to Genesis 11, verse 4, it says here. Oh, hold on for one moment. It says, and they said, go, let us build a city and tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. So what do? They scattered them because they were afraid of the unity that they had by way of the language, by way of the language itself. So Misbatia, the language that we're speaking, is a unifying language, is a unifying tone, is a unifying tongue that we all can speak. And once we start to actually speak it with each other and communicate with each other and start thinking that and start raising our bodily vibration by way of Sabek, by way of Misbatia, we'll start to think on another level, to start to think on a frequency that English keeps us from reaching, all right? We'll start thinking on a certain level in certain aspects of the mind that English cannot take us there. Only our own language, Misbatia, can take you to the next level, being a Musbatu, being a Musbatun, being a Sabian, all right? And this is not just related to just black unity. This is not just related to black harmony. It's not just a black thing. It's a cultural thing. So people from other races as well, you have to understand that it's not just dealing with black harmony, but earthly harmony. All right. So you have to understand that the things that Baba Yanun was doing on Tamaray was uniting people as a whole onto one particular frequency, one focus, one goal, one mind, one body, one spirit, one soul. Okay. And as we started to learn the actual facts in Patarak, which Baba Yanun is giving to us now, we have the ability to evolve, right? To evolve in our consciousness past the mortal and negative state and mentality that we have now. All right? And so you have to understand that this was what actually happened in Mesopotamia. So you have to understand that the Adamites, these primitive workers, their minds started to elevate. Their minds started to elevate past the control that the Anunnaki had over them. And you'll see in the records, you can find this, that the tongue that they were speaking was called Adamic. But Adamic was a combination of cuneiform and Ugaric and Akkadian and all these other Semitic dialects that came afterwards. Okay? And so they call it Adamic, Adam, right? Adamic because it related to the Lulu Amalu, or the Adamites that the Anunnaki were controlling at that time in Mesopotamia. All right? So a lot of the Mukasu, a lot of the Kakasu, right? They know these facts. They know these things. All right? But it's really our job to really elevate our minds past the rhetoric of English, past the rhetoric of the American tongue and dialect. Because as you can see, the unity is still kind of lacking, right, amongst each other because of that spell of sleep, because of that spell of ignorance that we have. All right? And even Baba Yanun said that the language is going to free him. But the thing is that if we don't speak it, then how are we issuing out his freedom? How are we speaking his freedom into existence if we're not even communicating in the tones that he's been giving us, all right? And it can be difficult to learn a new language, but you got to keep at it. You have to keep on speaking it and hearing it, all right, and living it and applying it, you know, and that's for me as well, you know, and everybody else. We have to start really speaking our language again and get back in tune, you know, with natural nature. All right. I'm going to stop right there, though. Does anyone else have any more questions related to the language itself? I had a little bit more sentences, too. I have some more sentences to give to everybody. Okay, let me see. Here's another one here. So if you want to ask someone, like, are you ready? Right? So you would say, are you ready? So you would say, Athir, right? And if you're speaking with a female, you would say, Antat Gahuz. Athir Antat Gahuz. Are you ready? All right? Or if you're speaking to a male, you say, Athir Antak Gahuz. All right? Are you ready? There's another phrase that I have for everyone. You have, let's say you have a favorite song, right? A favorite song that you have. Because Baba Yanun also taught us to learn music, learn a musical instrument. He said, let's say, for instance, you have a favorite song. So you would say, Nakuk, I like, right? Nakuk is I, sorry about that. Nakuk, I, Zarud, I like. Nakuk Zarud, I like. Pa, which is the song, which is Ghane, right? Ghane. I like the song, you would say, Nakuk Zarud Pa Ghane, right? I like the song, and then you could say the title of it, all right? So if you want to say, oh, well, I like the song, so you would say, Nakuk Zarud Pa Ghane, And let's say, well, one of my favorite songs is a song from the Whispers, right? Which is it just keeps getting better with time. That's one of my favorite songs by the Whispers. So I would say in Misbatia, I would say, oh well, nakuk zarud pagane, nakuk zarud pagane. The word for whisper is really washush, right? So you would say pa washush, well, I would say that, but I would say nakuk zarud pagane bih pa washush, all right, or pa mushashu. So I'm saying I like the song by way of the Whispers. I'm saying nakuk zarud pagane. You're saying I like the song. Nakuk zarud pagane, and then I say bih, and bih means by way of in Misbatia. All right, bih means by way of. So I say nakuk zarud pagane bih pa mushashu. All right, I like the song by the Whispers. All right, so I would say nakuk zarud pagane bih pa mushashu. All right, or let's say you like another artist. Let's say you like the artist Kem, right? You like the musician Kem, or the musician Sade, or who else? Beyonce, or Shantae Moore, or Earth, Wind, and Fire, or Luther Vandross, or Marvin Gaye, or Anita Baker. You could say the things that you like in our language by simply saying, okay, well, I like the musician. You could say, I like the musician, right? So you would say, nakuk zarud pa, and the word for musician, right? Because the word for music is masak. Masak is the word for music. So a musician, right, one who does music, is a mumsak. Can you say that? Mumsak. So you would say, I like the musician. Nakuk zarud pa mumsak. Nakuk zarud pa mumsak. I would say, for instance, who do I like? The words that's coming to my, I like Marvin Gaye, right? So I would say, nakuk zarud pa mumsak Marvin Gaye. Or nakuk zarud pa mumsak tat. If you're speaking about a female musician, you would say mumsak tat. Because we have to still understand the masculine and feminine principles. So I would say, nakuk zarud pa mumsak tat Sade, right? That's what I like also. Or nakuk zarud pa mumsak tat Anita Baker. Or pa mumsak tat, who's another female artist that I like? I like Shantae Moore. Pa mumsak tat Shantae Moore. Or pa mumsak tat Toni Braxton. Or is another one, pa mumsak tat, let me say, who else? I'm trying to think of another one. Gladys Knight, right? So you have to understand, you have to utilize the language in daily things that you do. All right, that's really the key to really understanding the languages. You gotta utilize it, but you have to use the words in things that you have to utilize the words in things that you always say on a daily basis. All right. So you say, okay, what's your favorite food? Right? What's your favorite food? Oh, I like the food, right? You would say nakuk zarud, because the word for food is bara. So you say, I like the food. You would say nakuk zarud pa bara, right? Nakuk zarud pa bara, right? So I'm giving you guys sentences. I'm giving you all sentences that you can utilize on a daily basis, just in regular conversations with people. I like the show. There's certain shows that you may like, a television show, right? So you say, for instance, let me go back a little bit. So if you want to say, the food that I like, let's go that direction. The food that I like, you would say, pa bara, the food that pafef I like, nakuk zarud. So I'll say, all right. And it may be, sometimes you have to understand that your brain cannot really compensate or absorb these new tones so quickly. All right, so I'm going to take my time with it. So you would say, well, I like the food, or the food that I like is, I would say, pa bara, the food, right? Pa bara pafaf nakuk zarud. Pa bara pafaf nakuk zarud kawun. So I'm saying the food that I like is, right? Pa bara pafaf All right. Pa bara pafef na cook zarud kawun, and then I will go into it. Right. The food that I like is I like African food. I like Caribbean food. I like Indian food. All right. And you can say pa bara, or you would say bara, food, right? And then from, right? Bara mana afaf rayay ka, food from Africa. Or if you want to say food from India, right? Food from India, you would say bara mana madrvad, bara mana madrvad, food from India, okay? And then you have to learn, of course, the names of those foods in Misbatia. But these are simple things that you can start to incorporate. What do you do when you first wake up? What do you do when you first wake up? If you like to exercise, where do you like to exercise? And find out how to incorporate a lot of these simple sentences and conversations into the language itself. And you'll see that what your brain will do, right? Because if you go to the book called Neuroscience of Wu-Sabat, what your brain will do, what they call it neuroplasticity, your brain will stretch itself out. It will create another pathway for words of different frequencies, of higher frequencies to intertwine together. That's what entanglement is really all about. So what your brain does is that it starts to compute this new tone and this new language that's already a part of your DNA. So your DNA already knows Misbatia, the language. You're just remembering it. Not necessarily learning it. Because when you learn something, you're learning something from the first time. But this is already in your DNA. So what your brain does is that it starts to compute what is already in its memory. In the memory of the 9 etheric being that resides in Africans, right? In the memory is the language, is Pa-Lahaj. All right, is your ancestors or etheric parents that are on the other side that speak the tone, that can communicate back and forth with you once you understand the tone, once you understand the language, okay? And what your brain will do is that your brain will blossom, right? There was a class that Baba Yanun was saying, I'm just a seed in your brain that is blossoming, okay? And that seed, of course, that he has given to us, which is Patarak, is the health seed. All right, but there's a difference. There's a difference between the person who gives the seed, who plants the seed, and the person who waters the seed. So Baba Yanun plants the seed of Wu-Sabat inside of you, but you have to be the one that waters the seed, that nourishes the seed, and according to how much effort that you put into nourishing it will determine how much fruit, how many fruits you can grow from it. And that's what we have to do with the language. You have to utilize the language as seeds of thought that you regularly utilize on a daily basis. The same thing with the English language. There's thousands of words in the English language, in the English dialect. Even if these words are coming from different languages and different dialects, that's not the point. The point is that we only use a certain amount of English words on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on an annual basis. All right, and then all those words are pertaining to the things that you do, to the people that you come across, to the places that you're at, to the things that you encounter, all right, on a daily basis. And then what you utilize, what your brain does is it starts to get comfortable. It starts to get acclimated to the English words that you normally or regularly utilize, and you just basically stay in that cycle, right? In that cycle of thought, and we're recycling thoughts all the time. But what Misbatia, our language, is doing, as you can see, is that it starts to create more neurons. So you have to understand that intelligence, you hear that tone? Intelligence, intel, in genes. Intelligence is genetic. Intelligence is genetic insofar as it's what the genes tell your body what to do by nature. That's what intelligence means. Intel in genes. What the genes tell you to do by your natural nature. All right? So the word for gene is yachas. Can you say that with me? Yachas. Genes or genetics is yachasat. Yachasat. Okay? So Baba Yanun, as a geneticist, is giving us a language that's going to trigger your genes. He's going to trigger your genes to expand. He's going to trigger your genes to expand to the point where you're able to utilize the doctrine with your life, the application of the doctrine with your life. All right? So I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but it's very, very important that we hear the tones. And don't get caught up on the technicality of the language, because everybody wants to pronounce the word the correct way. Everybody wants to say this word the right way. Everybody wants to be perfect in speaking the language. No one is going to speak Misbatia in its perfect state. But the key is just speaking it. The key is that we speak it amongst each other, even if it's incorrect, because a student teacher can come to you, or another Sabian can come to you and say, oh, you know what, brother, or you know what, sister, the way the word is really said is this way. You know, we say mihbar for newspaper as opposed to mityar, right? That would be something different. So if it's a big difference, and in terms of a letter itself, as far as the pronunciation of a letter, it's not really that important unless you're really just throwing everything off. But the key is speaking it in general. You just have to speak it. All right, whether it's incorrectly or correctly, you just have to speak it. And the thing is that you have to hear it, because babies, they don't learn a language, right, by writing it out. Babies understand a language by hearing it. All right, and then what they do is their brains interpret the sound from which they're hearing, right, from the sound to the mind to the tongue, and them regurgitating it or responding back to it. And then slowly but time, they start to understand the real sound, the true sound of the words that they're saying, and then the meaning behind it. And that's the stage that we're at right now as a family. All right, as a Sabian family. Right now, we're just students. We're just students that are actually learning our language again in the context that Baba Yanun is giving it to us. He's given us thousands of words in Misbatia, but we have to use it. And we have to hear it. All right, so whether you're hearing the chant is good. It's good to hear the chants. It's good to hear the prayers. It's good to hear Misbatia, okay? It's good to deal with images, all right? If you're not an audible person, it's good to have visual clues. It's good to have visual clues that will help somebody who understands the language. If you're not into visuals, it's good to be hands-on. All right, it's good to have somebody actually cut out the letters. All right, cut out the letters. All right, you can take the whole entire alphabet or all of the harafat, cut them out into pieces, and then formulate different words just out of the cutouts. And then you're having a hands-on approach as far as people putting words together, putting sentences together. That's hands-on. You know, you can even have a painting class. You can have a painting class where you have different colors, and you can take the paintbrushes and get canvases, and then you could take the paintbrushes and draw out the Misbatia words, Misbatia letters. And then you can take those words and then you can put them on the wall, right? You can put them on the wall. You can create artwork. And that way when people see it, they see the artwork that is in the language itself and say, oh man, what does that mean? What's that a picture of? What's that a drawing of? Oh, that's the picture of such and such. Oh, what's the word for it? Maybe it's you drew a picture of a crown, and then you write the word dashar. You write the word dashar in Misbatia, and people see the visual, they had the hands-on, and then they got the audible, which was the word itself and the sound of it. So there's so many different ways that we have to incorporate the audible, the visual, and the kinesthetic or the hands-on approach to the language itself. So yes, it's very important. But we all have to speak it. All right. All right, y'all. Okay, so with that being said, excuse me, I'm gonna end this class here on this forum. I see there's a couple of questions here. Hold on for one moment. He says, what do you think about propagation? Yes, propagation. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Propagation. You can propagate the language. Even with the doctrine. You know, you can propagate the doctrine by way of the language. All right? I mean, you got to think about it this way, right? Back in Islam, when Baba Yanun was teaching us as the Ansar community, right? Or Ansarullah community, what was the word for propagation? It was called tabligh, right? Which is really the word tabligh. The ta and the balagh. The word for message is the word balagh. 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 So a mublagh is a messenger, right? And if you propagate, right, then that's called a tabligh. All right? So, yes, we are messengers, all right? And the message is of Wu-Sabat. The message is of right knowledge. So we definitely have to propagate, our language and the doctrine, to the world. Because it's very, very important, because what you'll do is that you'll stimulate people that reside in different religious structures, in different religious denominations, in different religious concepts that are trapped by way of their faith and belief. So you have to understand that if you're speaking to a Christian, well, what kind of Christian? What kind of Christian are they? Are they a Jehovah's Witness? Are they a Baptist? Are they a Lutheran? Are they Episcopalian? Are they Protestant? And then you have to go into their words and then pull out or say, oh, you know what? The word we use for a Christian, for instance, is the word for it used to be the word muqsas. Muqsas was actually the word for Christian, qasas. All right, because the word qasas meant story. Because you have to understand that the Bible is a story, the greatest story ever told. All right, the greatest story ever told was the Bible. That's why Baba said that they were muqsasu. All right, now the word for story I think has changed to hake. All right, but they would be muqsasu. All right, because the Bible is a story, and if you go to the sacred records of Atumre, he said that what they're doing is they're storing, that's what the story does, storing something that you cannot confirm inside of your heart. That's what a story is, a store. It's storing something inside of your DNA. And that's what the spell resides in. The spell is stored in their DNA by way of the Bible, which is the greatest story ever told. But it's unconfirmed stories. It's unconfirmed faith. It's unconfirmed belief systems, all right? Same thing with people who are in Islam. There's different sects and denominations in Islam. All right. Are they a Shiite? Are they a Sunni? Are they Sufi? Are they Orthodox Muslim? And you can go into the language dealing with that. Do you know that the word Sabian is in the Quran? You have to understand that we're in their own books. When you go to Quran chapter 2, verse 62, which is in Al-Baqarah. And Al-Baqarah, which is Quran chapter 2, verse 62, it talks about the Jews, the Christians, and the Sabians. That's who we are, the Sabians, Musbatu. Okay? When you go to Quran chapter 5, chapter 5, verse 69, right? And that's Al-Ma'idah. Al-Ma'idah. It talks about the Jews, the Christians, and the Sabians. The Sabians, or the Sabiyunna. The Sabiyunna is in the Quran. So we're there. You have to understand the mindset, the mentality of Baba Yanun. He has us in every school of thought, okay? And even in the Quran, chapter 22, verse 17, you have the word Sabian. Sabian is there. We are there, Musbatu. So we are in their own scriptures, because Sabian was the original language. Sabian was the original language, you follow, of Arabia, because we were the true Arabs. You have to understand this. Arab, not just saying mingle and mix. He's talking about what Baba Yanun was talking about in, for instance, in the Akashic records, was those from Sudan, those from Somalia, those from Ethiopia. Those were the true Arabs. The Arabs that you see today in the Mesopotamian region are not real Arabs. All they are Turks, you follow, Persians, and Indians. So you have to understand how all of this ties in together, right? Even the word Sabba is in the Bible itself. You're talking about the heavenly host when it says, and the host of them. And the host, the word host in Hebrew is Sabba. Who is the heavenly host? The heavenly hosts are the Sabians, the Musbatu. You follow? And when you go back even into the Torah, all right? Even when you go into the Torah and it says Psalms, you go into Psalms 82 verse 6 and you go and says, I said ye are gods. When you go into all those different books, you'll see the word Sabba, right? Sabba. Let me go back even further. When it says in Genesis, for instance, when it says, and the gold of that land is good, right? The gold of that land, right? Which land was where was all of this gold, and why was God saying that this gold was actually good? So that means that there's good gold, and then must be bad gold. So there must be real gold, and there must be fake gold. And then where was this land at? And the land was Cush, which was Ethiopia. Cush, Ethiopia. We go back to the word again, Sabba. All right. So we get back to the title again of Sabian and the language itself. All right. So you have to understand that it doesn't matter where they go. Wu-Sabat is the equalizer. You can't run. You can't hide from the truth, right? And it says, only fools duck when the truth is thrown at them. Only fools duck when the truth is thrown at them, all right? I actually wanted to read this. This is actually coming from the Maxims of Yanun. It says, a journey is not begun with the first step, yet rather with the first thought. This is coming from Baba Yanun, from the Maxims, 635. A journey is not begun with the first step, yet rather with the first thought. So your first thought has to be, okay, my thought is on the language. My thought is, I'm going to learn Misbatia. I will learn Misbatia. And then at that point, you have to take that first step. The step comes after the thought, okay? You have to understand that in the religious community, and I'm going to end shortly, in the religious community, they always talk about sin, right? They always say that sin is an act, an action that people do, but sin is not the act. Sin, all right, even though we know sin actually relates to the Sumerian deity Sin or Nanar, right, which deals with the Anunnaki and the god of light and fire, but that's a whole nother topic. But the way they utilize it within their jurisprudence is that they say, okay, if you commit a sin, right, or an unlawful act, they say that sin is an act, but sin is not an act. Sin is actually the thought that precedes the act. So if you thought about robbing the bank, the thought itself is the sin. By the time you got into the car and put the key into the ignition, all right, and got all your equipment and then went out to the bank itself and then went to the teller line and then committed the act, the sin was already born from the first thought. You have to understand how that works, because it's the mind that moves first and then the physical. All right? So a journey is not begun with the first step, yet rather with the first thought. All right? And on that note, I'm going to tell everybody, Wadu Yasar. Until then.